What if you only had to plant your vegetable garden once, and it fed you every single year after that without replanting? No more buying seeds every spring, no more starting from scratch every season. Just a permanent, productive, self-renewing food garden that keeps giving year after year, like a fruit tree. These plants exist. There are 20 of them. And today, we are going through every single one. Before we dive in, if you are new here, welcome to the channel. We bring you honest, practical food growing content every single week. Hit that subscribe button right now and tap the bell so you never miss a new video. If today's video helps you build a food garden that feeds your family for years from a single planting, a quick thumbs up takes 1 second and helps this reach more gardeners who need it. We appreciate every single one of you. Now, let's go to the video. Okay, annual vegetables cost you money, time, and effort every single year. Seeds, soil preparation, replanting, the same cycle repeating forever. Perennial vegetables break that cycle completely. Plant them once, give them a season to establish, and they return and produce reliably year after year with a fraction of the ongoing effort. Most gardeners have never heard of half the plants on today's list. By the end of this video, that changes completely. Item number 1, asparagus. Asparagus, botanical name Asparagus officinalis. Asparagus is the gold standard of perennial vegetables. A properly established asparagus bed produces abundant harvests of tender, delicious spears every spring for 20 to 30 years or more from a single planting. Plant all male hybrid varieties like Jersey Knight or Jersey Supreme. They produce significantly more spears than older mixed varieties because they direct all their energy into spear production rather than berry production. Prepare the bed deeply. Asparagus roots go down 18 inches and reward the effort of proper preparation with decades of productivity. Do not harvest at all in year 1. Harvest lightly in year 2, and from year 3 onward, harvest freely for 6 to 8 weeks every spring. Key benefit? A 30-year productive bed from one planting. All male hybrids produce 3 times more spears than standard varieties. The patience of the establishment period pays back more generously than almost any other food garden investment available. Caution: never harvest asparagus in the first 2 years. Allowing full frond development builds the root system that powers all future harvests. Harvesting too early permanently weakens the bed and reduces long-term productivity significantly. Item number 2. Globe artichoke. Globe artichoke, botanical name Cinera cardunculus variegris scolimus. Globe artichoke is a magnificent architectural perennial vegetable that produces its large, edible flower buds for 10 to 15 years from a single planting in warm climates. It grows into an impressive 6-foot clump of deeply divided silver-green leaves that is as ornamental as it is productive. Genuinely one of the most beautiful plants in the food garden. Varieties Green Globe and Imperial Star are the most productive and most widely available. Every 3 to 4 years divide the plant, splitting off the side shoots called ratoons and replanting them to renew vigor and expand the planting. Full sun is completely non-negotiable for productive artichoke growing. Key benefit: each established plant produces 6 to 12 artichokes per season from a footprint of approximately 9 square feet. Impressive productivity combined with extraordinary ornamental value that makes this plant earn its garden space twice over. Caution: Globe artichoke is cold hardy only to approximately zone 6 with protection. In colder climates, mulch the crown heavily before winter or grow in containers that can be moved to frost-free shelter. The crown is the plant. Protect it and the plant returns. Lose it to frost and the season's production is gone. Item number 3, rhubarb. Rhubarb, botanical name Rheum X hybridum. Rhubarb is one of the most reliable, most cold-hardy, and most genuinely permanent perennial vegetables available. Thriving in zones 3 through 8, returning dependably every spring from its dormant crown for 20 years or more, and producing abundant harvests of tart, flavorful stalks that are the foundation of some of the most beloved desserts in the food garden tradition. Plant crowns in deep, fertile, well-draining soil in full sun. Pull, do not cut, stalks from the outside of the clump to harvest. Remove flower stalks immediately when they appear to keep the plant's energy in leaf and stalk production. Divide every 5 to 8 years when the clump becomes congested. Key benefit: rhubarb is genuinely one of the most zero-maintenance perennial food plants available once established. It requires essentially no attention beyond an annual top dressing of compost in spring and removal of flower stalks through the season. The return for this minimal input is a reliable, generous annual harvest for decades. Caution: never eat rhubarb leaves. They contain oxalic acid in concentrations high enough to cause serious kidney damage and potentially fatal poisoning. The stalks are entirely safe. The leaves are genuinely toxic. This distinction is critical and must be clearly understood before growing this plant in any garden where children are present. Item number 4, sorrel. Sorrel, botanical name Rumex acetosa, common sorrel. Rumex scutatus, French sorrel. Sorrel is a perennial leafy green with a bright, clean, intensely lemony flavor that makes it one of the most distinctive and most underused culinary herbs in the food garden. It grows as a clump of broad, arrow-shaped leaves that emerge in early spring, often before anything else in the garden is growing, and continues producing through the entire season. French sorrel is milder and more refined in flavor than common sorrel, preferred by most cooks for fresh use. Remove flower stalks the moment they appear to maintain continuous leaf production. Divide clumps every 3 to 4 years to renew vigor. Key benefit: sorrel is one of the very first edible harvests of the year, producing harvestable leaves in late winter and early spring when almost nothing else in the food garden is ready. This early season productivity fills the hungry gap between the last stored winter crops and the first spring and summer harvests. Caution: sorrel contains oxalic acid, the same compound that gives spinach its slight astringency, in moderate concentrations. People with kidney stones, gout, or rheumatoid arthritis should consume it in moderation. Cooking reduces the oxalic acid content significantly. Item number 5, Jerusalem artichoke. Jerusalem artichoke. Botanical name, Helianthus tuberosus. Also called sunchoke. Jerusalem artichoke has absolutely nothing to do with Jerusalem and nothing to do with globe artichoke. It is a North American native sunflower relative that produces edible underground tubers of a nutty, sweet, distinctive flavor that can be eaten raw, roasted, or cooked in soups and stews. It is genuinely self-perpetuating. Plant tubers once, and the patch maintains and expands itself indefinitely without any replanting. It grows to 8 to 10 feet tall with cheerful yellow sunflower flowers in late summer, providing ornamental value and pollinator habitat simultaneously. Key benefit: Jerusalem artichoke is one of the most productive perennial food plants per square foot available in the temperate garden. A single tuber planted in spring can produce 5 to 10 pounds of new tubers by autumn harvest. Harvest after the first frost when tuber sweetness is at its best. Caution: Jerusalem artichoke contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber that the human body cannot fully digest, which causes significant flatulence in most people who eat it. Regular consumption reportedly reduces this effect as gut bacteria adapt. Start with small quantities and increase gradually. Also, contain the planting. Jerusalem artichoke spreads aggressively and becomes difficult to eliminate once established. Item number 6. Perennial kale. Perennial kale. Dobbinton's kale. Brassica oleracea variety ramosa. Also, tree kale and walking stick kale. While standard kale is an annual that must be replanted every year, Dobbinton's kale is a genuine perennial that grows as a woody-stemmed, multi-branched shrub reaching 3 to 5 feet tall and living productively for 5 to 10 years. It does not set seed. It propagates entirely by cuttings, meaning it never becomes invasive. The leaves are milder and more tender than standard kale, with the same nutritional profile. Extraordinarily rich in vitamins K, C, and A. Harvest young growing tips and leaves continuously through the year. The more you harvest, the bushier and more productive the plant becomes. Key benefit: perennial kale provides a continuous 12-month harvest from a single planting, unlike annual kale that produces in one season and must be replanted. In mild climates, it is genuinely productive through winter, when leafy greens from other sources are scarce and expensive. Caution: Dobbinton's kale does not come true from seed because it rarely produces seed at all. It propagates only by cuttings. Take 6-inch stem cuttings in late summer, root in potting compost, and establish new plants to replace any that age out of productivity after several years. Item number 7. Walking onion. Walking onion. Botanical name: Allium X proliferum. Also called tree onion or Egyptian walking onion. Walking onion is one of the most fascinating and most genuinely self-sufficient food plants available. It literally plants itself. Instead of setting flowers and seeds at the top of each stem, it produces a cluster of small bulblets called topsets. As these topsets mature, they become heavy, bend the stem to the ground, and the topsets take root where they land, walking the planting progressively across the garden without any human assistance. Every part of the plant is edible. The green stems like spring onions, the underground bulbs like small onions, and the topsets raw or pickled. Key benefit: a walking onion patch is completely self-managing and completely self-perpetuating once established. It requires 0 replanting, 0 seed purchasing, and minimal maintenance beyond harvesting. Plant once in a corner of the food garden, and it sustains itself and slowly expands its productive area indefinitely. Caution: position the initial planting thoughtfully. Walking onions spread in the direction the topset-laden stems naturally fall, which is somewhat predictable but not precisely controllable. Give the patch a defined area and harvest topsets from the edges each year to manage the direction and rate of spread. Item number 8. Lovage. Lovage. Botanical name: Levisticum officinale. Lovage is a perennial herb of extraordinary productivity. A single established plant grows to 4 to 6 feet tall, produces enormous quantities of deeply flavored, celery-like leaves, and returns reliably from the same crown for 10 years or more. The flavor is intensely celery-like, but richer, deeper, and more complex than actual celery. A single stem of lovage adds the flavor equivalent of an entire head of celery to soups, stocks, and stews. Every part is edible: leaves, stems, seeds, and even the root. It is genuinely one of the most culinarily versatile and most productive perennial food plants available. Key benefit: One lovage plant provides enough leaf harvest for a typical family's cooking needs throughout the entire growing season. The seeds, harvested when ripe and dried, are a spice with a warm, celery seed flavor used in baking, cheese making, and spice blends. The plant self-seeds moderately, providing free replacement plants around the parent. Caution: lovage is a large plant, 4 to 6 feet tall with an equally generous spread at maturity. Give it adequate space and position it at the back of the food garden where its height adds structure without shading smaller plants. Do not use medicinally in large quantities during pregnancy. Like many umbelliferous plants, it has traditional amenagog associations. Item number 9. Horseradish. Horseradish. Botanical name Armoracea rusticana. Horseradish is essentially immortal in the garden. Plant a single root section and it establishes a permanent, deeply rooted perennial that returns with complete reliability year after year, requiring no replanting, no special care, and very little attention beyond harvesting. The root is harvested in late autumn and winter, grated fresh immediately before serving for maximum heat and flavor. Fresh horseradish grated from your own garden is dramatically more potent and more complex in flavor than anything in a jar from the supermarket. Key benefit: horseradish contains glucosinolates, the same compounds that give broccoli its health-promoting properties, in very high concentrations. It has documented antimicrobial properties and has been used in traditional medicine for respiratory conditions, digestion, and as a natural antibiotic. Growing your own gives you access to these compounds at their freshest and most potent. Caution: contain horseradish planting carefully. It spreads aggressively through thick, deep roots and is genuinely difficult to eliminate once established. Grow in a buried container, a large pot with the base removed sunk into the ground, or in a dedicated bed bordered by hard surfaces that roots cannot penetrate. Every small fragment of root left in the ground regenerates a new plant. Item number 10. Chives. Chives. Botanical name Allium schoenoprasum. Also garlic chives, Allium tuberosum. Chives are one of the most productive, most reliable, and most overlooked perennial food plants in the garden, returning dependably every spring from an established clump, producing continuous harvests of mild, onion-flavored leaves throughout the entire growing season, and asking virtually nothing in return beyond an annual tidy and occasional division. The purple-pink flowers are edible, beautiful, and highly attractive to pollinators. Garlic chives provide the same perennial productivity with a mild garlic flavor and white flowers. Both are genuinely useful culinary herbs that improve the flavor of eggs, salads, potatoes, soups, and almost any savory dish. Key benefit: chives and garlic chives also function as companion plants. Their sulfur-containing root compounds deter soil-dwelling pest insects and inhibit certain fungal root pathogens in the soil around them. Planting chives between other food crops simultaneously provides a continuous harvest and improves the pest resistance of neighboring plants. Caution: divide chive clumps every 3 to 4 years when they become congested. A clump that has not been divided for many years produces thin, sparse growth as the plants compete too intensely for resources. Division takes 5 minutes, revitalizes the planting immediately, and provides multiple free new plants to extend the productive chive patch. Item number 11. Sea kale. Sea kale. Botanical name Cramby maritima. Sea kale is a beautiful, unusual perennial vegetable native to European coastal cliffs, producing glaucous, blue-green, wavy-edged leaves and fragrant white flowers of genuine ornamental quality from a deep taproot that sustains it through drought and neglect with complete indifference. The traditional eating method is forcing, covering the crown in late winter with a pot bucket, or forcing jar to exclude light, which produces blanched white shoots of delicate, nutty, asparagus-like flavor that are one of the finest seasonal vegetables available. Allow 2 to 3 years for full establishment before harvesting. Key benefit: sea kale is one of the most genuinely unusual and most highly regarded traditional British perennial vegetables, a plant that connects the food garden to centuries of coastal foraging and kitchen garden tradition. The blanched forced shoots are a genuine culinary delicacy, entirely unlike anything available in supermarkets. Caution: sea kale requires excellent drainage. It evolved on coastal shingle and cliff faces where drainage is essentially perfect. In heavy clay soils, it rots at the crown without amendment. Raise the planting on a mound of gritty, well-drained soil, or grow in a raised bed with added sharp sand and grit. Item number 12. Good King Henry. Good King Henry. Botanical name: Chenopodium bonus henricus. Good King Henry is a heritage perennial vegetable that was a staple of European kitchen gardens for centuries before being largely forgotten in the 20th century, and that deserves a serious revival in the modern food garden. It is a low-growing, spinach-like perennial that produces edible leaves, shoots, and flower spikes from early spring onward. The young shoots blanched in spring are cooked like asparagus. The leaves are cooked like spinach, rich in iron, calcium, and vitamins. The flowering spikes are eaten like broccoli. 3 entirely different harvests from one permanently established plant. Key benefit: Good King Henry is one of the most genuinely multi-harvest perennial vegetables available, producing edible material in 3 completely different forms at 3 different points through the growing season. Early season shoots, midsummer leaves, late season flower spikes. 1 plant, 3 harvests, 0 replanting. Caution: Good King Henry contains oxalic acid, like sorrel and spinach, and should be consumed in moderation by people with kidney or gout issues. Blanching the leaves in boiling water before eating reduces oxalic acid content significantly. Item number 13. Turkish rocket. Turkish rocket. Botanical name: Buneus orientalis. Turkish rocket is a vigorous, deep-rooted perennial that grows in almost any soil, including poor, dry, compacted soils where most vegetables refuse to grow, and produces edible shoots, leaves, and flower heads continuously from early spring through summer. The flavor is peppery and mustard-like. The young shoots cooked like broccoli are genuinely delicious. It self-seeds moderately in favorable conditions, maintaining and expanding its presence in the garden without any replanting required. Harvest young growing tips regularly to maintain tender, productive growth. Key benefit: Turkish rocket is one of the most genuinely low-input perennial vegetables available, thriving in poor soils, tolerating drought, self-seeding to maintain the planting, and requiring essentially no maintenance beyond harvesting. It is ideal for beginning perennial vegetable gardeners because it is almost impossible to grow badly. Caution: Turkish rocket can become prolific through self-seeding in very favorable conditions. Deadhead spent flower heads before seeds ripen if you want to limit its spread in the garden. The deep taproot makes established plants difficult to remove. Site it where it can remain permanently. Item number 14. Welsh onion. Welsh onion. Botanical name: Allium fistulosum. Also called bunching onion or Japanese bunching onion. Welsh onion, despite the name, has no particular connection to Wales. It is a perennial bunching onion of Asian origin that forms clumps of upright, hollow, onion-flavored stems that are harvested like spring onions continuously through the growing season. Unlike regular onions, it never forms a large single bulb. It simply maintains a clump of productive stems that regrow from the base after each harvest indefinitely. It is fully cold-hardy to Zone 3, withstands severe winters without protection, and produces some of its best growth in early spring when conventional spring onions are nowhere near ready to harvest. Key benefit: Welsh onion is one of the most consistently productive and most genuinely year-round perennial food plants in cold climates. In mild winters, the foliage remains harvestable through the coldest months, providing a fresh, flavorful onion harvest in every single month of the year from a single permanent planting. Caution: divide Welsh onion clumps every 2 to 3 years. Congested clumps produce thin, less flavorful growth. Division is simple, quick, and provides multiple free divisions to extend the productive planting across more of the food garden. Item number 15, 9-star perennial broccoli. 9-star perennial broccoli. Botanical name, Brassica oleracea. Perennial form. 9-star perennial broccoli is the perennial version of one of the world's most popular vegetables, producing multiple white, broccoli-like heads per plant per season for 3 to 5 years from a single planting. Each plant produces up to 9 individual heads per year, hence the name, rather than the single central head of annual broccoli. The side shoots that follow the initial heads provide additional, smaller harvests, extending the productive season significantly. It grows as a substantial, woody-stemmed plant reaching 3 to 4 feet tall and equally wide at maturity. Key benefit: 3 to 5 years of broccoli production from a single planting, eliminating the annual seed starting, transplanting, and bed preparation that annual broccoli requires every season. For a family that eats broccoli regularly, the time and cost saving over a 5-year productive period is genuinely significant. Caution: never allow 9-star perennial broccoli to flower and set seed. Once it sets seed, the plant believes its reproductive duty is done and declines rapidly. Harvest every head before it opens into flower, promptly and consistently every single season. This is the one management discipline that determines whether this plant lives 3 to 5 productive years or 1 poor season. Item number 16, tree onion, potato onion. Potato onion. Botanical name, Allium cepa var aggregatum. The potato onion is a multiplier onion. Plant 1 bulb and it divides underground to produce a cluster of 6 to 12 new bulbs by harvest time. Save the smallest bulbs for replanting the following year and eat the largest ones. Repeat indefinitely. Once you have your initial stock of potato onions, you never need to buy onion sets or seeds again. The planting sustains and renews itself completely from its own harvest. The flavor is sweet, mild, and excellent, better than many supermarket onions. Key benefit: complete, permanent self-sufficiency in onion production from a single initial purchase of bulbs. The potato onion is the most genuinely self-sustaining of all perennial alliums, requiring no ongoing seed purchasing, no annual replanting from external sources, and producing a reliable, genuinely useful culinary harvest indefinitely. Caution: always save your smallest harvested bulbs for replanting rather than the largest. Large bulbs produce fewer divisions the following year. Small to medium bulbs produce the most generous multiplication, 6 to 12 new bulbs per planted bulb in good conditions. Item number 17, Babington's leek. Babington's leek. Botanical name, Allium ampuloprasum var babingtonii. Babington's leek is a rare and extraordinary perennial leek, a British native wild leek that produces edible stems and leaves throughout the year and self-plants through the bulblets it drops from its flower heads in late summer. The flavor is mild leek, less intense than cultivated leeks, but pleasant and versatile in cooking. Once established, it requires zero replanting. The fallen bulblets establish wherever they land, gradually building a self-sustaining, permanently productive leek patch. Key benefit: a permanently self-planting leek that requires no intervention, no replanting, and no ongoing seed or set purchases. It naturalizes in the garden and provides a continuous, low-intensity leek harvest from a completely self-managing planting, the ultimate low-effort perennial allium. Caution: Babington's leek is slower to establish than most perennial vegetables. Expect modest harvests in the first 2 years while the planting builds its population. Patience through the establishment period is rewarded with a genuinely permanent, self-sustaining productive planting from year 3 onward. Item number 18, Chinese artichoke, Crossneys. Chinese artichoke. Botanical name, Stachys affinis, also called crossneys. Chinese artichoke produces small, spiral-shaped, pearl-white tubers of a delicate, nutty, water chestnut-like flavor that are genuinely unlike anything else available in the food garden. The tubers are eaten raw in salads, crisp and sweet, or cooked lightly in stir-fries and vegetable dishes where they maintain a pleasant crunch. The planting is self-perpetuating. Any tubers left in the ground after harvest regrow the following season without any replanting required, maintaining and slowly expanding the productive area indefinitely. Key benefit: Chinese artichoke is one of the most genuinely unusual perennial food plants available, producing a distinctive, delicious harvest that surprises and delights anyone tasting it for the first time. Its self-perpetuating quality and minimal maintenance requirements make it an outstanding addition to the permanent food garden. Caution: the tubers deteriorate rapidly after harvesting, losing their crisp texture and fresh flavor within days of digging. Harvest only what you intend to use immediately rather than digging the entire crop at once. Leave the remainder in the ground where it stores perfectly until needed. Item number 19, groundnut, Hopness, American groundnut. Botanical name, Apios americana, also called Hopness or Indian potato. American groundnut is a native North American perennial vine that produces edible tubers strung like beads along underground rhizomes. Nutritious, starchy, protein-rich tubers that were a staple food of indigenous peoples across the eastern United States for thousands of years. The tubers taste like a richer, nuttier potato. The plant fixes atmospheric nitrogen through root bacteria nodules, simultaneously producing food and improving soil fertility. The vine grows vigorously each season from its permanent underground tuber chain, requiring zero replanting. Key benefit: American groundnut tubers contain approximately 3 times the protein content of potatoes, making them one of the most nutritionally complete perennial starchy vegetables available in the temperate food garden. The nitrogen-fixing root system improves soil fertility for neighboring plants simultaneously, making it a productive companion in any food garden planting. Caution: American groundnut tubers require 3 to 4 years of establishment before producing harvests worth eating. The patience investment is significant, but the reward, a permanent, nitrogen-fixing, protein-rich perennial tuber crop, is equally significant. Do not harvest heavily in the first 3 years. Allow the underground tuber chain to build sufficient size for sustained future productivity. Item number 20. Ostrich fern. Fiddleheads. Ostrich fern. Botanical name: Matteuccia struthiopteris. Ostrich fern closes this list as the most unusual and most woodland-appropriate perennial food plants available. A large, spectacular, vase-shaped fern that produces the fiddlehead harvests beloved in northeastern American and Canadian cooking every spring for decades from a single established crown. The fiddleheads, the tightly coiled new fronds emerging in early spring, are harvested when still tightly wound and 2 to 4 inches tall, cooked thoroughly, and eaten as a seasonal vegetable of distinctive, earthy, asparagus-like flavor. The plant spreads by underground rhizomes to form an increasingly large, increasingly productive colony over years. Key benefit: ostrich fern fiddleheads are a genuine seasonal delicacy, available fresh for only 2 to 3 weeks per year in early spring, that command premium prices at farmers markets and specialty food stores. Growing your own provides access to this genuinely delicious and completely unusual seasonal harvest from a plant that asks only for moist, shaded soil and patience. Caution: always cook fiddleheads thoroughly before eating. Raw or undercooked fiddleheads have been associated with foodborne illness in multiple documented cases. Boil or steam for a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes before consuming. Also, harvest a maximum of 1/3 of the emerging fiddleheads from each crown per season. Taking more weakens the plant and reduces future productivity permanently. 20 perennial vegetables. Plant once, harvest for years, decades, and in some cases, a lifetime. Asparagus and artichoke for the classic perennial harvests. Rhubarb and sorrel for reliable spring abundance. Jerusalem artichoke and perennial kale for productive self-sufficiency. Walking onion and lovage for the self-managing food garden. Horseradish and chives for permanent flavor. Sea kale and good King Henry for heritage value. Turkish rocket and Welsh onion for low-input productivity. 9-star broccoli and potato onion for familiar flavors made permanent. Babington's leek and Chinese artichoke for the unusual and the rewarding. American groundnut and ostrich fern for the genuinely extraordinary. Thank you so sincerely for watching today. We appreciate every single one of you. If today's video has changed how you think about your food garden, please hit that like button right now. Share this with every gardener you know who is tired of replanting from scratch every single spring. And if you are not yet subscribed, now is your moment. Hit subscribe and tap that bell so you never miss a weekly upload. We will see you in the very next video. Until then, plant once, harvest forever, and build the food garden that keeps giving. Happy growing!